All right, shalom, shalom. Want to give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is Brother Isaiah with another Most High Monday. And today, really, man, we going over some various topics. So without further ado, man, I'm gonna just go and get to the lesson. We're gonna play the blowing of the shofar, and we're gonna get right into it. All right. So I'm sharing screen. We're gonna play the blowing of the shofar, then we'll get into the lesson. All right. Cool. So that was the blowing of the shofar. Now today's lesson, man, like we said, various topics. So there's a lot that's going on. And if you see the thumbnail to this video, man, there's a few things. So I wanted to talk about a few different things because it's important. The first thing, and I think I messed up on the thumbnail image, so I got to re-upload that because what I wanted to do was talk about this Lindsay Clancy trial first and foremost, right? Lindsay Clancy, right? So dang, I got to share my screen, of course, so y'all can see what's going on. So this Lindsay Clancy trial pretty much is a trial reflecting the I guess you could say the murder of 3 children, right? So Lindsay Clancy murder trial is nearing its end in Massachusetts, right? Clancy is accused of strangling her 3 children in January of 2023. Now, she pled not guilty to three counts of first degree murder by strangulation, right? She pled not guilty. Why? Because her defense argues postpartum psychosis, while prosecutors assert her actions were premeditated. Okay, so she's trying to plead insanity. The prosecuting attorneys are saying she knew exactly what she was doing. This is premeditated, right? So she's not trying to face any prison time. She's just trying to be able to, go to a mental asylum, I guess, get treatments and things of that nature, right? But that's what's going on with this. So if you're not really aware, this is what's taking place in Massachusetts. Now, there's been a lot of division about this because I want to say that, let me pull this up. How much money did Lindsay, how much money was raised in support of Lindsay? And I'm Googling this because, as you can see, what we pulled up was a mother who killed her 3 children, right? And again, what I was segueing into is that there's a lot of division about supporting this woman. I stand on the side that, I can't support a murderer of children, right? But then there's people who saying that from a mental health standpoint, they could understand and have empathy and compassion for her. But it's hard to do that, right? And I wanted to show this because this is a big part of why people are outraged behind this trial. Again, if you never knew what this trial was before now, look it up, go into it, man. It's kind of crazy. But it says more than $1 million has been raised through a verified GoFundMe campaign created to support Lindsay Clancy's parents during her ongoing murder trial, right? The Musgrove Family Fund, launched in mid-August 2026 by a Wisconsin-based TikTok creator. The campaign, titled the Musgrove Family Fund, swiftly accumulated $1,014,381 from nearly 31,000 donors, aiming for a final goal of $2 million, right? Because GoFundMe explicitly prohibits crowdsourcing funds for the legal defense of anyone accused of a violent crime, the money is strictly allocated for Clancy's parents, Mike and Paula Musgrove. According to the campaign organizers and verified platform representatives, the intended use of the funds. So the funds are controlled by the Musgroves to cover accumulated cost of travel, lodging, and living expenses, right? The parents permanently relocated from Connecticut to Massachusetts to attend daily court proceedings and remain close to their daughter, right? Defense costs. Because GoFundMe rules prevent these donations from covering any attorney fees, Clancy's defense lawyer, Kevin Reddington, confirmed that her parents are separately draining their personal life savings to fund her legal representation, right? And then there was some other, I guess you could say, GoFundMes, right? But that's kind of crazy, right? So that's what I wanted to start off with today. You know, it's just kind of crazy how in this world, man, we can raise money for murderers, right? We can raise money for murderers. And that is just genuinely insane because she murdered her 3 children and she admitted to it. So this is not necessarily, and she didn't admit it to it in a official statement, right? She didn't give an official testimony, right? It was through messaging that, you know, they seen that, you know, she confessed to it. But what I was going to say is that it's just kind of crazy how, you know, in this life, we can really raise money and raise awareness to the wrong people, right? We can raise money for the wrong people for doing the exactly wrong thing. Now, she wants to plead insanity, so I didn't want to spend too much covering how much money she's been donated. Rather, I wanted to go into what is postpartum psychosis, right? So, what is postpartum psychosis? PSYCHOSIS. What is postpartum psychosis? So, PPP loan, right? Postpartum psychosis is a severe, rare, and life-threatening mental health emergency that occurs suddenly in the days or weeks after childbirth. It affects roughly about 1 to 2 out of every 1,000 mothers and involves a severe break from reality, right? Where the individual cannot distinguish what is real from what is not. Core symptoms, unlike the baby rules, mild sadness or anxiety, or postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis causes a profound change in a person's thoughts, behavior, and perception. Delusions, believing things that are completely untrue, offers centered on the baby, believing the baby is possessed, defective, or not theirs. Hallucinations, seeing, hearing, or feeling things that are not there, such as voices telling them to harm themselves or the baby. Paranoia, confusion, severe mistrust of loved ones, extreme disorientation, and disorganized speech or thinking. Mania or sleep deprivation, right? Going days without sleep, going days without sleeping, without feeling tired, displaying frantic energy, or showing rapid mood swings, right? So those are all the things that come with postpartum psychosis. It's not to be confused with postpartum depression, right? And I think I'll Google more into that. Now, while it can happen to anyone, certain factors significantly increase the likelihood of developing postpartum psychosis. Prior history, previous episodes, family history, first-time mothers, right? Medical treatment. This is the biggest part of it, because if she is found not guilty by way of insanity for the murders of her 3 children, this is probably along the lines of what she'll be receiving when she goes to the psych ward, which is require immediate medical intervention and hospitalization. It is not something that resolves on its own, but it is highly treatable with proper medical care. So you go to a psychiatric hospital, you're monitored, right? You got medication, which is antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, and anti-anxiety medication. And then you get electroconvulsive therapy, right? Which often in use highly effective if medications do not work quickly enough, as it is fast tracks recovery. So this is some of the things that her defense is arguing. She pled not guilty, not to the fact that she didn't do it. Her defense team already acknowledged that she did do it. What they're arguing is that she did it by way of insanity, because she literally went insane and was having hallucinations, and this caused her to do X, Y, and Z. Now, it is my opinion, right? It's my opinion, and we're allowed to have them. So it's my opinion that, man, realistically, man, this lady's a murderer. And like any defense lawyer would do, they'll try to find some loophole in the legal system to be able to get you acquitted of your crime, because that's what you hired them to do. But this is the problem with society in today's time. Situations like this should not even be like, this trial should not even, you shouldn't even really want to defend something like that. And I say that because at the end of the day, it's clear point, it's clear she did it, regardless if it was insanity, somebody got to pay for what they did. And if she's not going to pay for it, then the justice system is really flawed. We already know it is, but it's just crazy how it works across the spectrum. So Lindsay Clancy, again, is roaming free, right? Well, right now, she's not necessarily roaming free, but she's trying to get to the point where she can not necessarily have to deal with prison, right? And she can just live her life, in a psych ward, right? Because she's fully competent now, but again, that's a different story from when she committed the crime. So her defense team argues. Now, I wanted to read this in the book of Mark, chapter 9, right? Verses 25, right? And we're going to read through 29, right? So matter of fact, let me start at let me see. Maybe I should start higher, right? Okay, let me start at verse number 6. Let me start at verse number 17. So Mark 9 and 17, and it says, and one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit, right? And wheresoever he taketh him, he teareth him, and he foameth and gnasheth with his teeth, and pineth away. And I spake to thy disciples that they should cast him out, and they could not. So this man has a spirit on him, right? This man has a spirit on him. Now, fast forward, right? Verse number 25, let's jump down. And it says, when Christ saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, thou dumb and deaf spirit, I charge thee, come out of him and enter no more into him, right? So we see where the man brought Christ the spirit, and now we go to the point where Christ rebukes the spirit out of him and tells him not to go in no more. And now let's keep reading. It says, verse 26, and the spirit cried and rent him sore and came out of him, and he was as one dead, insomuch that many said, he is dead. But Christ took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he was come into the house, his disciple asked him privately, why could not we cast him out, right? And he answered and said unto them, this kind can come forth by nothing but by prayer and fasting, right? So certain spirits that take hold of you, you can only get rid of them through prayer and fasting, right? Dumb spirits, deaf spirits, dumb and deaf spirits, any type of wicked, foul spirit that is on you, 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to free yourself from that thing through much prayer and fasting. Now, that is what I wanted to talk about immediately, because a lot of people don't understand that mental health is a real thing. And I'm not going to nowhere near say people can't see things and hear things, right? Because that's all throughout the scriptures. I'm going to go to one more. I want to go to another one, right? I want to go to one more. This is Job, the book of Job, chapter, I want to say 12, right? 12, or is it 13, right? So if it's not Job 12, it's Job 13. Hold on. Nah, I know it's in Job. So like, I know it's in Job, and I know it's one of these 2 chapters. Maybe I'm not reading it. Maybe I'm not reading down far enough. Maybe I'm not reading down far enough. Let me go back. Job, because I'm looking through it right now. Job 12. Dang, I thought it was, maybe it's chapter 9. I know what it's saying. Dang, I want to pull that. I want to pull that, man. Hold on. Salakia. See, I hate when I think I know it, but I don't know nothing, right? Hey, if a man think he's something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself, right? Salakia. Dang, man. Let me see. Let me see. I'm gonna try to find it, right? I know it's in here, right? I know it's in here. I know it's in here. So I'm gonna let y'all see what I'm seeing so that way we can pull it up. I know it's something like that in the book of Job, though. I know it's something like that in the book of Job. No. Um, dang, I know it's something like that in the book of Job. I'm not tripping, right? Let me pull this up. I want to pull up that precept though, because it goes with what the message I'm trying to convey, which is that spirits are all throughout the scriptures, right? Dark figure scripture in Job. Let me see. Dang, I can't remember the scripture. Dang. Okay, well, it'll come to me. It'll come maybe later on. I can't find it, y'all. And I'm sitting up here wasting time looking for it, but I just cannot find it. But what I was looking for, it was like a scripture where it says like a dark figure walked past his face or something. I can't remember. I'm trying to roughly paraphrase it, but the more I speak on it, the more I feel like I'm just winging it. And I know I've read that in Job before, so it'll just come back to me, right? But going back to Matthew, let's go. I mean, excuse me, going back to Mark, right? Going back to Mark again, certain spirits can't come out but by prayer and fasting. So when you go back to this trial, right, and you Google postpartum psychosis, I'm not saying it is not a real thing. I'm not saying that women don't experience like mental health crisis episodes after childbirth, after labor and delivery. It's a lot, you know. And I talked to my wife about it, and I say, you know, I tell my wife, I'm kind of like, I don't want her to have another child. That's just me being real. Because of the experiences that we've had, I just would be better off, you know, straight with the children that we have now. You know, we ain't got to go through that risk no more. But saying all that to say, the trial itself is what angers me because, again, man, certain spirits cause you to do certain things. And just because the spirit did it, or you felt like you were under the influence, right? I just don't feel like it's forgivable. I don't feel like this is a forgivable offense to where we can just say, well, she was insane when she did it, right? I was under the influence when I did it. At the end of the day, the same way drunk drivers are held guilty for driving in a car when they're under the influence and they go and kill somebody, I feel like this should be treated the same way. And why? Because again, both of them are when people are, you know, not necessarily conscious of what they're doing. They're not necessarily in their right state of mind. So if somebody could go to jail for driving drunk, which is absolutely a choice, and granted, it's also not necessarily, it's not necessarily a choice whether or not your mind is in the right place all the time. But what I'm speaking on when we read this in Mark, what I'm speaking on is that you can help your mind stay in the right place when certain spirits try to attack you by prayer and fasting. And that's why our people need to do more of that prayer and fasting and less of this, you know, hear me out, help me out type of stuff. We try to fight spirits a lot of times with physical measures, we with physical weapons. And like we read on our lesson last week, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the pulling down of strongholds. That's 2 Corinthians 10. So we don't fight spiritual battles physically. And that's what the message is regarding this, is that we don't fight spiritual battles physically. No amount of mental health therapy, no amount of counseling from others, no amount of support, no amount of, you know, your husband doing whatever is going to help a woman really get over the effects of postpartum, right? When that spirit comes up, first of all, this is what I will pull up though, because I'm big on this, right? Proverbs. And we're going to touch this real quick and then we're going to move forward. Again, this lesson is covering various topics. So I'm not spending 100 minutes on this topic alone. We're not even deeply going into the trial, right? I'm just touching on it lightly, and I'm just offering my 2 cents, right? And then, we're going to get up off this thing. But Proverbs 18:21, what does it say? Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. You got to be mindful of what you speak over yourself as a woman after you have a baby, postpartum. Every woman should already know going into pregnancy that after you had this baby, there's going to be attacks on your mind, your spirit, your body. You got to be strong enough to, one, speak over yourself, encourage yourself in the Lord. Don't speak that spirit on you. Don't even secretly speak that you may be dealing with that, because all of it is fueling Satan, right, to come and attack you. So learn how to speak the words of positivity over yourself. That doesn't negate that sometimes you may not feel the best and the brightest, but in those moments where you don't feel the best and the brightest, don't automatically chalk it up to, well, I'm dealing with postpartum depression, right? Because the Lord could send you a worse spirit on you titled postpartum psychosis. And guess what? You could potentially have a situation where this woman, went into a psychotic state and killed her children and tried to kill herself. I'm not saying that really happened, though. I wasn't there, and I'm not the Most High, But all I know is that, to me, like I said, this should be treated the same as if somebody's driving drunk. I understand one of them is highly avoidable, right? But spiritually speaking, dealing with spirits, sometimes they can be highly, well, let me say it like this. You can't control a lot of times what happens, but what you can control is the way you handle it, right? Now, in her trial, her defense team did argue that she did reach out to receive the mental health therapy that she needed, right? I think they submitted evidence to show that she knew something was wrong. She was trying to get help. I don't know what happened all with the help that she received. But all I'm going to say is that this is exactly why we need to, as believers of God, we need to make sure that women, when y'all have children, y'all getting y'all word a little bit harder, because spirits do try to come on and attack you. And you got to be able to handle anything that the Lord may put on your plate, right? Every woman will say they deal with postpartum. And I'm not going to say that that's not true. What I am going to say is, though, yes, you may have moments where you don't feel your best, but we got to learn as women how to deal with it, right? I'm not a woman, so I can't tell you how to feel. But what I can say is, if you go to the Word of God, there's answers in there to help boost your morale. And I think that you should choose that route and don't sit up there and, wallow in your sorrows, wallow in your misery, wallow in your aches and pains, if you get what I'm saying, right? Men deal with mental health issues too, but this is not the topic of discussion for men. But all I'm going to say is that everybody should be able to take at least some wisdom from the Word and apply it to our lives, right? I got to watch my tongue when I'm not feeling the best. I got to watch what I speak over myself when I'm not feeling the best. So if I got to do the same, everybody should strive to do the same. And remember that death and life are in the power of the tongue, right? We got to stop being so quick to speak sickness and illness and mental health over ourselves. And we got to be the type of people that just really want to endure in a righteous way any affliction that the Lord sends us. Learn how to handle it better. I'm not saying you can completely avoid it. What I'm saying is the way you handle it can be better. And if you don't think that, then you're deceiving yourself, right? If you don't think that, then you're deceiving yourself. And if you feel like you've tried your very best, try harder. Try harder. And that's not to go into a rabbit hole of, so what I just can't never do it good enough. You're right. You know what I'm saying? You're right. All of us can try harder in everything in life, man. Men could be better husbands, better fathers. Women could be better wives, better mothers. It's all a part of life. Everybody can be better. And if you feel like you've gotten to the point where you just can't grow no more and progress, hey, may the Lord have mercy on you, because I wouldn't really say that about myself. I will never get to the point of comfort to think that I just couldn't get no better. I can be better at any aspect of my life, spiritually, physically, romantically, however you want to slice the cake, right? So going back to this before we switch topics, again, postpartum psychosis. Do your research on it. Look it up. I'm not saying it's not a real thing, and I'm not saying that she couldn't experience no psychotic episode. But what I am saying is that, man, I just feel like there should really be not this case, man. What are we doing? She already confessed through messages, through evidence that she did it. And yeah, you can say, well, she wasn't in her right mind. Well, guess what? That has nothing to do with those 3 children that lost their life. Just because you're not in your right mind is not an excuse. And I'm not saying it is, right? I'm not saying people are saying it is. But what I'm also saying is that ignorance does not mean that you're forgiven. We read it all the time, right? People are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? Again, people may not have the knowledge, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be destroyed. So you gotta learn about, I guess you could say, you gotta learn yourself. You gotta know yourself. She, per her defense team, she reached out to receive the help she needed. However, she received help, I don't know, because I wasn't there. A lot of people weren't there. But what I will say is that this is a message for women who believe in the Most High. If you don't believe in the Most High, then you better get close with them, because these type of spirits can happen and come on people. And when they do, you got to be able to defend yourself. That's why we read Ephesians 6:12, put on the whole armor of God. That's why we read, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, which is actually Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. That's why we read those scriptures, because we want to exhort women, children, men to be the best that you can be at all times. Be ready, be instant, right? Because at any given moment, Satan is literally looking to throw you off your block, send a spirit on you, and you got to be ready to defend yourself, right? So we're going to switch topics. Now, the next topic, which is in the thumbnail, man, you know, is dealing with this Cleveland Browns quarterback situation, right? Now, this is what I'll say. I want to talk about sports for a brief second, because at the end of the day, you know, sports and life have some similarities, right? So what happened was, the Shedeur Sanders, he got drafted by the Browns. If you don't know who Shedeur Sanders is, he was a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns that ultimately got drafted in the 5th round when he was projected to be a first-round draft pick, but he didn't get drafted to the 5th round. So the quarterback competition was between him and Deshaun Watson, right? And today, officially, they named Deshaun Watson as a starter. Now, if you watch practice, if you watch preseason, you can see that Shedeur made progressions, right? And I mean progression as in, from year 1 to year 2, he looks a lot better. But he's always been a great player, you know. The thing is, though, is people don't understand, like, sometimes in life you got to make a business decision, right? And what the Cleveland Browns did with naming Deshaun Watson their starter is made a business decision. Why is that important? Because sometimes in life, you got to really wait your time, right? You got to really wait your time. And you may not necessarily think that you need to wait. You may be ready to go and get in the game right now, but the Lord may be having you, you know what I'm saying, sit down for a moment, a long while, to get you to understand, like, hey, you know, you got to chill right now. And I wanted to pull this up for a reason, right? Now, I'm not no way in no wise comparing Aaron Rodgers to Shedeur Sanders, right? I'm not comparing Shedeur Sanders to Aaron Rodgers, because what Aaron Rodgers is not who Shedeur Sanders is right now. But that doesn't mean Shedeur Sanders cannot reach the same level of greatness Aaron Rodgers did. But I'm pulling this information up for a specific reason. I want to show people something. So look at Aaron Rodgers' stats, man. Over the course of his career, look at this, right? He's played 264 games. He has a quarterback record of 163, 93, and 1. So not even 100 losses yet. Very impressive, right? And he could finish this season with less than 100 losses. That's crazy. He has 66,274 passing yards, 527 touchdowns, only 123 interceptions. That is beautiful, right? This is what I really want to focus on, though, right? This is what I really want to focus on. Get these ads out of here, man. But this is what I really want to focus on. The first 3 years of his career, he played in a total of 7 games. 7. Right? Shedeur himself played in 8 games last year, but he started 7. And he had a 3-4 record, right? Even though he had a 7 touchdown, 10 interception season, a lot of those interceptions were, human error, right? But this is what I'm going to say. he sat down the first 3 games, the first 3 seasons, and what he did was learn. He was playing behind Brett Favre. Now, Deshaun Watson is not Brett Favre, right? But at the same time, the principle applies, is still there. Sometimes you gotta wait. And Shadir got a song called, Perfect Timing. And in life, even when you feel like you're ready, sometimes, man, the blessing is in actually waiting. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to bring up my Isaiah, the mighty prophet Isaiah, man. The mighty prophet Isaiah. Let me share this tab, right? So this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 40 and verse 31, right? And it says, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. In life, a lot of times, man, you may feel like you're ready for that moment. You may feel like, hey, you that guy. Everybody may be rooting for you and cheering for you. Everybody may want you to be the man right now. But sometimes, man, you just got to learn that, hey, maybe the Lord wants me to wait a little bit longer. Sometimes you got to tarry a little bit longer, man. Tarry until the morning, right? I think that's the same thing Boaz did with Ruth. Let me pull that up, right? To tarry. Right? I want to pull that up. Dang. Where was I at? I know it's chapter 3, but let me pull it up on this screen. Ruth chapter 3. All right. So this is the book of Ruth chapter 3, man. And dang, let me see. Well, this is what I want. I'm trying to figure out where I want to start at for context. So pretty much, man, she pretty much went to Boaz because she needed the kinsman law to be performed, right? So let me just start at verse number 11, right? Let me start at 10. It says, no, let me start at 9. Let me start at 9. Damn, I keep saying 9, then I want to go to 8. Let me start at 9. It says, Ruth 3 and 9, and it says, and he said, who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast shewed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not, I will do to thee all that thou requires. For all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman, right? So everybody knew Ruth was a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy near kinsman. Howbeit, this is what he says, howbeit, there is a kinsman nearer than I. So there was somebody closer to him. And this is what he told Ruth, right? He said, tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then I will do the part of a kinsman to thee, as the Lord liveth. Lie down until the morning. So that was the point I wanted to make. And the reason I'm reading that, the reason we read Isaiah 40 and 31 is because the point we're building is sometimes you just got to wait a little bit longer, right? Sometimes you just got to wait a little bit longer. And if you wait on the Lord, you're going to renew your strength. A lot of people want to see Shadir Sanders on starting right now at quarterback, right? Me, I'm not even really a Cleveland Browns fan. And the only reason I am really more of a Shadir Sanders advocate is because of how I see how young black men are mistreated in the media and even by our peers. And I find myself arguing with people, about him, not necessarily because I'm just such a fan of him, but more so because of the stereotypes that are thrown that really, it relates a lot to how black men are perceived in this country. And so anytime a brother is in the spotlight and I kind of see similarities of them and how the Lord, said it would be for our people, that's what kind of invokes me to, add my 2 cents in certain conversations. But That's why I wanted to read this, is because, again, man, you know, he's the talk of the town right now. He's a great player, but at the same time, sometimes you just got to wait a little bit longer than what you think you should. Everybody could say throw Shedeur Sanders in that quarterback right now and let him play. But this is my thing. You go out there with a new head coach and stuff doesn't look the best, that's going to be even more reason for people to say, oh, this kid is not ready, right? Now, he could go out there and he could actually look absolutely stellar, which would be great, right? But that's a big if. And that's not if because he's not a good player, but that's an if because it's so many things that have to go right in order for even a quarterback to perform well. It's so many things that have to go right. The snap, right? The blocking assignments, right? The receivers running the right routes, the receivers catching the football, the receivers making sure they catch the football so it won't turn into deflections that result in interceptions. That happened a lot last year. There's so many things that go into how well a quarterback plays. Just like Devontae Smith had a little clip. If you don't know who Devontae Smith is, he is a wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's number 6. They call him Skinny Batman. But Devontae Smith had a clip where he was talking about playing football as a receiver. And he said, man, people don't understand so many things got to go right in order for a receiver to even get a pass attempt, to even get a ball my way. So many things got to go right. And that's true. The lineman got to block. The play call has to be called in, you know, at a reasonable time so the quarterback can relay the message to the team, give them their assignments and instructions, right? Everything has to go right. And so when you go on the road, your first 2 games, because the Browns' first 2 games of the season are at Jacksonville, the Jaguars, and at Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers. Those are 2 great teams right now, right? Those are 2 really good teams that have really good defenses. So the best thing, this is my thing, as a student of the game, the best thing for me to say would, I don't mind him sitting down and waiting a little bit longer, right? Because this gives Deshaun Watson an opportunity to get that return on investment. And what did I say earlier? Business decision. Deshaun Watson was paid $230 million guaranteed by the Cleveland Browns organization. He has yet to really deliver on the money that he was received. On the contract that he signed, it has not went well for him since he got to Cleveland. So this is why the Browns are starting him, because they're trying to see, can we get a return on our investment out of Deshaun Watson, right? And Deshaun Watson has experience, man. You know, he's been in the league since 2017, and he's shown really flashes of being able to be a truly great quarterback, right? But since he's been in Cleveland, it's not been well, you know? So giving the vet the early nod, it makes sense, right? A lot of times, you gotta yield and submit to your elders, right? Even as a young man, even if you feel like you're ready, bro, sometimes the Lord just has a better plan for you to wait a little bit longer. And there's nothing wrong with that. And fans of Shedeur, fans of the Browns, right, have to understand that. And if you even in life, right, this is not even a football message. I know I'm using football, but it's not a football message. It's really a life message. Sometimes you just gotta wait. But when you wait on the Lord, man, he will reward you for your patience, right? Patience is truly a virtue. And I know everybody wants to, you know, start out the gate. Everybody wants to be the person to, you know, to be the man. But sometimes you just got to take a minute, right? You got to take a minute and you got to examine yourself. And once you get to the point where you feel like you're ready, then you got to make sure that the Lord is on the same mind, right? I had another scripture I wanted to read. Oh, here we go. This is Psalms 27, right? And let me start at verse number 12. Let me start at 11. Psalms 27, 11 through 14, right? And it says, teach me thy way, O Lord, and lead me in a plain path because of mine enemies. Deliver me not over into the will of my enemies, for false witnesses are risen up against me, and such as breathe out cruelty. I had fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord, man. So if you wait on the Lord, even when you feel like it was your time to shine, if you wait on the Lord, man, the Lord will do you right. but you got to really wait because, again, he's going to strengthen you, but you got to wait. And that may require you to wait a little bit longer. Going back to this tab again, Aaron Rodgers' first 3 seasons, man, he played 7 games. 7, right? This season, he got to put up some quality numbers, but he only threw during that time. In 3 years, he threw 1 touchdown and 1 interception, and that's it, right? But now Aaron Rodgers is a lock for the Hall of Fame, first ballot. But if he didn't wait these 3 years, if he got tired of waiting, if the fans were like, we're ready to move on from Brett Favre, throw Aaron Rodgers in there, and they listened, then guess what? Aaron Rodgers may not have the career he has right now. So sometimes you just got to wait on the Lord, man. And that even goes back to the Lindsey Clancy trial that we was talking about earlier. A lot of times as a woman, when you're experiencing these episodes of postpartum, you got to not be hasty to speak something over yourself. You got to not be hasty to make a decision, irrational decision at that. Wait on the Lord, Go into a deep prayer, pray on it. It's the same thing for brothers dealing with mental health issues. A lot of times we just need to tarry a little bit longer, like, Boaz told Ruth to do right here in Ruth 3:13, right? So we got to be willing to wait. Now, switching gears one more time, right? Switching gears one more time. So there's one more topic I wanted to cover, man. Let me pull this up. So, and this is the one I wanted, the one I was most interested in. Enos, so talk to me about the Enos Freedom situation with Tasha Cloud. Right. So this is what I really want to pull up. So if you don't know, and on the thumbnail, you'll see his picture, right? I don't know his nationality again, but all I know is that Enos Freedom is a former a former NBA player, excuse me. And what he did this season, right? Because the WNBA season is going on right now. He declared himself to be a woman, and he said he was going to enter the 2027 WNBA draft. Now, the reason he did that is not the reason that you see in the media. A lot of people need to learn how to read in between the lines and stop being surface level people, man. Right? What's that precept, man? I want to get that real quick before we go into this. What's that precept, man? Let me pull this up. This is Sirach 11:7, right? What does it say? Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. We got to not be people so quick to just rebuke something. Unless you examined it first, don't rebuke it because you don't know what it is, right? It says, understand first. This is the most important thing. Before you rebuke anything, you got to understand it first, right? Then you rebuke it. And then you rebuke it. Right? So if you don't know if you don't know nothing about something, even if something looks weird to you, if it sounds weird, don't just be so quick to rebuke it and just do away with it. Learn what that thing is first. And then you make the decision whether or not you should rebuke it or receive it. And I'm saying that because, let me see, going back to this tab, right? Enos Freedom, again, former NBA player. He declared as a woman during the WNBA season and said he was going to enter the 2027 WNBA draft. Yesterday, he went to a Chicago Sky game versus the Indiana Fever, and he had on a shirt that read the definition of what a woman is, right? He got into it with one of the WNBA players. The reason he did that, not him getting into it, but the reason he did all of that, declared a woman, said he was entering into the WNBA draft, is because he wants to protect women in professional sports settings, right? It's the same thing with Sophie Cunningham a few months ago, like a month or 2 months ago. She said she wanted to protect young boys and girls from really predators. And she was really talking about the LGBTQ community, right? Natasha Cloud is a WNBA player that supports the LGBTQ community and their involvement on the lives of young children. because she even made a post on Instagram Reels, right? Or I forgot, Instagram Threads, excuse me, Insta Threads, that she said, young trans girls and boys, you know, you are loved, you're accepted, like, and that stuff is kind of crazy, right? Matter of fact, I want to pull that up, man. Latasha Cloud post on Insta Thread. Let me pull that up. Let me see if I can pull that up, man. Let me see. Okay, so look, let me share this tab. First of all, look at this girl, okay? Secondly, this is the post, right? She said, to every trans kid person, you are a part of my community and tribe. You belong, you're loved, you're seen. You perfect as you are, and you always will be protected by me. That is so stupid. I'm going to tell you why it's stupid. It's stupid because Enos Cantor is just saying the WNBA needs to rightly define who can or cannot compete in the WNBA. Because if you have this blurred line of what defines a woman in professional sports, then 10 years down the line, maybe 5 or less, you're going to have a bunch of biological men declaring for the WNBA draft, and now they're going to be dominating the WNBA, right? I respect women, right? I respect that there are women who want to play basketball for a career. You know, I can't control every woman. I can only control my one. And I can't even really control her. It's of the Lord. You know, I let the Lord kind of lead our relationship. But this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there has to be at some point a line drawn in the sand, right? And if you don't draw no line in the sand, some women are going to be out of jobs. Women will fight so hard to be equal to men. The WNBA did this whole thing about wanting to be paid like NBA players. Now they got a CBA boost and they're now getting paid a lot more money than what they were. The problem is still, though, that if you don't rightly define what declares one to be a woman, you're going to have a league where it's not going to be women anymore. It's going to be men that call themselves women, and they're going to be dominating your league. And that's why Enos Freedom is doing what he's doing. He's trying to bring light to a rule. I seen a post where a brother said that he's trying to, make a mockery of women. No, what he's doing is he's making a mockery of a rule that doesn't rightly protect the rights of women, right? And that's why he wore that shirt to the game as a peaceful protest. That's why he declared as a woman and said he was entering the WNBA draft. And in fact, he was not the only male to do so. Royce, I think his name is Royce White, said he was going to enter into the 2027 WNBA draft. Now, what's crazy is the WNBA came out today and said those two men cannot enter and compete in the league. But if they don't rightly define a rule that declares what is a woman, they're going to have a problem with their league in about 10 years. And when you have posts like this, right? When you have posts like this and people that think like this, and this is why, man, I say sometimes, bro, sometimes athletes, their platform can be very dangerous. Because just because you're an athlete, you have a platform, you start saying stuff, and people think your stuff and what you're saying is righteous. And it bothers me when I see stupidity like this. To every trans kid person, you are a part of my community and tribe. You belong, you're loved, you're seen, you're perfect as you are, and you always will be protected by me. So if you're protecting trans women, right, men that turn into women, then guess what? Don't be upset when you're out of a job within the next couple of years, because a lot of trans women came in this league and dominated and kicked you to the curb, right? You can't be upset about being treated equally if you really don't want the field to be equal. That's the truth. Now, again, I don't know what the WNBA intends to do as far as their rule, but this situation has brought a lot of outrage. And I want to play a short snippet of the video from yesterday that they got into it. Freedom, Natasha Cloud. Right? I want to play a short little snippet, right? Let me share this tab. Look. Sure, this volume is all the way up. I guess it's all the way up. It sounds low to me, so as long as y'all can hear it.
Sometimes you think about heat checks, and I bet that was the shot she was just
right here
taking with anyway. Cloud finding an angle. And just like that, a 6-point basketball game. Chicago staying in it. Natasha Cloud. And right before the break, this was the scene inside Wintrust Arena. After Natasha Cloud got that bucket, she wanted her voice heard. We have talked about the conversations surrounding the W.
Bruh, this girl even look like a damn demon, bruh. If I'm being honest, man. If I'm being honest. And it's so many women around her that support her, but people don't really understand like the message that this man right here is trying to portray. He's actually trying to help y'all niggas. You know what I'm saying? But that's the problem sometimes, man, when we don't wait on the Lord. We don't use our mind. We don't think logically. We just move off emotion and what it may seem like. When we don't really examine what's being done or said, we tend to rebuke it. And he's actually saying, I want to help y'all. So what he was trying to do was exploit a flaw in the legal system, and he did. But everybody's mad about it. Oh, he could go about it a different way. No, bruh. See, the problem with the world is sometimes we want to, walk on eggshells to uncover these problems. Sometimes, man, you just got to hit somebody in the mouth to really get the message across. And that's the problem with the world. It's too many times people are saying the delivery. It's not about the delivery, man. It's really about whether or not you receive the message. Did you receive the message? And if you didn't receive the message, examine why. Did you focus too much on the delivery? Did you not like the person that delivered the message? And I've seen a lot of brothers talking bad about this brother, but realistically, bro, as a father of a daughter, man, I'm not gonna lie. Just say my daughter wanted to play basketball in the WNBA, right? If my daughter wanted to hoop, why would I want to let her play in a league that's dominated by trans women? And that's men that turn into women. Why would I want to do that? It wouldn't be fair. So that's why, again, what he's just doing is exploiting a legality, exploiting a flaw in the WNBA verbiage of what declares one to be a woman and who can and who cannot compete in their league. That's all he's trying to do. But people don't like this guy because of his NBA career, which was actually kind of a solid career. And women like this woman are wicked at heart because she wants to support the very thing that can really destroy all of these women's careers as a hooper. Now, granted, it's our message at the Hope of the Elect that it's not, God is not, he's not rewarding us for being great basketball players and stuff like that. He rewards us for doing his commandments. So all I'm saying is that the commandments of the Lord, we all agree, are the thing that matters the most. What I am saying, though, is that if you're going to be a professional, learn how to truly be a professional. Learn what are the associated risks of your profession. And learn who you can and cannot associate yourself with because they can be a threat to your profession. If she doesn't come to her senses and realize, if this young woman doesn't come to her senses and realize that supporting LGBTQ means you're 9 times out of 10 going to be out of a job soon, if your league doesn't do something about it, then again, you're going to be without a job. And it takes courage like this man has to do stuff like that. Because our brothers, man, I've seen a lot of posts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, of our brothers talking bad about this man. When really, bro, as a father, if you have a daughter, you know what I'm saying, you should want to make sure that your daughter can be able to have a level playing field, right? But people don't see the message because they're not doing this. They're not understanding first. They're not understanding first. They're just straight rebuking. Oh, he's just causing a nuisance. Oh, he's just there to make mockery of women. No, he's making mockery of a rule. And it's just funny how we live in a hypocritical society. We don't support LGBTQ here at the Hope of the Elect. But guess what? It's just funny how everybody can declare they're a woman until he doesn't. He declares he's a woman. Now he's not a woman. So it's only okay for certain people to do it, not all people. Well, what's the difference? And that's the hypocrisy in a lot of what you see in today media outlets and all that stuff, man. So really, bro, that's the thing. And this is why, going back to the law of God, right? This is why, the Lord had this. I'm not even gonna go to the law. I'm gonna go to Paul. I don't want to go to Paul because I want to read this, right? So this is why the Lord wrote this in 1 Corinthians chapter 11. It says, verse number 3, it says, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God, right? That's important. There's order and structure for a reason. The Lord knew who he wanted to be the leaders, right? He operated through the men. Women and men work together. However, the man is the head of the household for a reason. That's the way the Lord intended it to be. So when you don't know your role and you're operating outside of your role in the Most High God, there's going to be confusion like we see in today's world. That's why the Lord wrote in his law that man should not lie with mankind as with womankind. That's why he wrote in his law that a woman shall not wear that which pertaineth to a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garments. He always made a division between men and women. And this is not a misogynistic conversation, because the Bible is not misogynistic, man. You got to read it. People take a couple verses out the Bible and misinterpret them and call the Bible misogynistic. The Bible is not a misogynistic book, right? But what happens is when you don't read the scriptures, when you forget who the Most High God is because of what the world can offer, that's why you have people that's just reacting and not examining first, because that's wisdom given in the scriptures to examine first. And that's why you have people reacting and not supporting Enos Freedom, which his real name used to be Cantor, but that's why you have people reacting and not necessarily understanding what he's doing, because again, you were not taught the laws of God. So all these messages that we read today go back to the word, right? When you talk about the Lindsey Clancy trial, learn how to speak positivity over yourself, because those psychotic episodes can happen to you. And if they can happen to her, they can happen to you. And if they can happen to you, that means the outcome could be the same. You got to take care of yourself. And you do that by the way you speak over yourself. You do that by the way you encourage yourself. And when it goes to the Shadir Sanders situation, you got to understand that sometimes, hey, man, the Lord got a bigger plan for us. We just got to wait and see. We got to tarry. You know what I'm saying? Wait our time. And the same thing with this Enos Freedom situation. We got to turn back to the law of God. We got to really want to protect our people. And the law of God is the best way to do it. Put it in between man and the women. Men compete with the men, women compete with the women, and leave it at that. Clearly define what is a man, clearly define what is a woman. And we won't have issues where you got a man that's, protesting at these games peacefully and somebody's getting offended by it. And he said she really started the heckling. She started this whole thing, but he got kicked out and he's the one being made fun of, but she low-key started it. He was coming in support of women, and he was clapping for, again, the lady I mentioned earlier, Sophie Cunningham, who hit a 3, and he was celebrating. And she was just kind of mad about it because, again, Sophie Cunningham, she had a controversial moment where she was like, she don't really fool with people trying to, do that, bring that LGBTQ stuff on kids. But she's somebody that does support it. Terrible, hey man, confusion, right? Who trained the truth of God into a lie? But with that, man, those are kind of the various topics I wanted to uncover and go over. And, I've been on here for almost an hour. So Most High willing, man, you can see the bigger picture in all this thing. All of this stuff goes back to the word of the Lord. It's not, like I say, I don't defend, like, I don't argue sports like to be sport head, right? I do it because there's a lot of comparisons in sports and real life, and a lot of comparisons with sports, real life, and the word of God. So we have to learn how to go bring everything back to the word of God. If it doesn't line up with the word, we shouldn't support it. If it doesn't line up with the word, we shouldn't do it. Realistically, I mean, there's no other way to slice that cake. But I'm Brother Isaiah from the Hopeful Elect, man. We want to give all praise, glory, and honor be to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Most High, you was edified. We'll be back on with the brother Denal tomorrow for Tuesday night class.